Today is the first day back to school for Columbus and a number of other districts, and with back to school comes the return of fall sports. Athletic counselor Dr. Chris Stankovich is joining us this morning on Good Day Columbus to talk about that. Great to see you. Chris, how are you?
Thank you, Andy. Well,
listen, there's sort of a new trend with younger athletes, high school age, even younger, having to retire for various reasons from sports. And that can be one tough transition for kids, can it?
it can be. It probably sounds a little bit odd to talk about sport retirement with kids, but really that's the one thing that's inevitable for all athletes, is that one day their playing days will end. And for a lot of kids, it can be a really tough experience.
Let's talk about when it ends, and they don't want it to end. They could be cut from the team, which we're seeing more and more of due to budget.
Yeah.
And also, you know, they just kind of age out of it.
Well, that's it. You know, some kids quit voluntarily, but a lot of them quit, you know, it's called deselection, where they're not maybe good enough athletically to continue on. And when you really look at the odds, you know, only about 6–7% of all high school student athletes will actually go on to play at college. So it's a small percentage.
All right, but you know, being an athlete or whatever sport you play in high school especially, Chris, is your whole identity. You're a football player, you're a swimmer, and what happens to them mentally and emotionally when they don't have that label anymore?
Yeah, it's a really strong identity for a lot of kids, especially now. They play year-round, they specialize in one sport, they start very early, and so as you can imagine, they get up to junior high and high school. When they're no longer able to play, they lose that identity. It'd be like you not being able to work in the media anymore and having to find a new career tomorrow. It can be very abrupt and very challenging.
But they're losing that circle of friends as well, because a lot of their buddies may go to practice and they're not doing that anymore. And as a parent, what can we do to help that transition?
Well, I think we've got to normalize it. Parents need to talk to their kids about the odds of making it to the college or pro level. It's a pretty small percentage, but you got to normalize it. You also have to look at athletic transferable skills, things that the kids do in sports, and talk about how they can be used in the classroom and in every activity in life. And that way their identity is not so strong around athletics. They have confidence in their overall abilities.
And so many jobs, Chris, I think it's also good advice to tell kids, are focused on that sport but not necessarily in playing it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the thing is, and this is what I see at my practice quite a bit, we talk about the utility of playing sports across the board, not just on the field, but everything you do. And I think parents need to be overt and really talk about that, not just assume that kids get that.
Used to be, Chris, there were a couple of sports where the transition was especially difficult. Football, basketball, because they were kind of the big men on campus. This has really filtered down to every sport.
It has, you know, and years ago when I was doing research in this area, we saw football and basketball players to be the most at risk, and that was primarily at the Division I level. Now we see small school athletes, even high school student athletes from every different sport have challenges with moving on after sport retirement occurs.
Before we go, and to reiterate, when you're sort of deselected or you have to retire at a young age due to injury or whatever, parents may see depression, anxiety, poor future planning, and trouble developing a new identity. So as a parent, that's what we need to look for. It's going to be a tough transition for these kids, and help them along the way.
Yeah, I mean, you really do need to normalize it, talk about it, and if you need professional attention, I certainly urge parents to look into that if that calls for it.
Yeah, okay, great. Dr. Chris Stankovich, so much. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you, Andy.
All good advice as we go back to school and back to sports. For more on this, you can visit our website, myfox28columbus.com, and click on